This is the Tier bike, and it's a little bit like a Tesla Cybertruck in that it's fast, electric, heavy, and when you really look, the quality is not so good. Today, we're going to have a review of this bike because I'm Isaac Alloway and you're watching Bikewow. Before we get into the review, I'm going to talk about the location, the place that we're at. Today, we're filming in Battersea Power Station, perhaps the future of South London, as many media articles have called it. It's modern, yet it has the feeling of, I guess, tradition, especially with the humongous power station in the background. When you first look at the Tier bike, you can see that a lot of thought went into the design. The seat is leather, lovely and comfortable. The handles are rubber, also nice and comfortable, but smooth rubber, not the grippy sort of rubber you get on some other electric bikes in London. Lime. The colour coding is really good. You can really see that a lot of thought went into the colours of the bike. The design of the wheels is actually a really interesting topic because of the way that they designed the wheels. They're both aerodynamic, stylish, and help the bike stay locked when you lock it up. I'll get to that later. Moving on to the quality. Now, here's where it gets a bit iffy. See, now the quality from a distance looks good, and it is. Even when you get right up close and you feel the bike, it's good until it gets used. Now, the one issue with public bikes and public e-bikes and Santander bikes and all these bikes around London is that you don't own them, which means people have used them before you. A lot of people have used them before you. So the quality starts to go downhill after a couple of uses, especially on the handlebars. The handlebars tend to chip a lot, which is really uncomfortable, especially when you're riding barehanded. I've adopted the method of wearing gloves every time I ride Tier bikes because I cut my hand open from the broken plastic. It's dangerous and it's not really what you want. And that brings me on to 5 annoying things about the Tier bike. For some reason, the headlights on the Tier bike come out in this weird sort of square shape, and it's not very good for when you're riding at night and you can't see anything. The next thing, as mentioned before, is the handles. The fact that the handles chip and break and scratch you to the point where you're bleeding is not really that good and makes me wonder if this is ever something that Tier is going to rectify in the future with future models. The next thing is the seat. Now, I really like the seats on Tier bikes. As I've mentioned, they are super comfortable and you don't get a sore bottom if you ride for over 2 hours. However, the seats aren't very good quality. As in, the bolts on the seats aren't very good quality. They'll often fall out and they'll often be slightly unscrewed, which means every time you sit on it, you'll fall off. The next thing is, for some reason, the handlebars don't exactly match up with the wheel. Now, I think this varies from bike to bike, and you can fix it by just grabbing hold of the bars really firmly and moving them to match up. But if you didn't know that they could do this, like I did the first time I rode a Tier bike, it can cause you to fall off. I think the next biggest issue with Tier is the range, and I don't mean its battery range. Its battery range is really, really good, 60 kilometers. But I mean the range in which you can go on Tier bikes. Now, the Tier bikes used to go all the way up to Islington. This was really good. And when I first thought about interviewing this bike, the reason why I loved it so much is because it went all the way up to Islington, all the way through to Finsbury Park, and up to Hampstead and Highgate. But now, you can only ride in central London and South London, and only a small portion of South London, which is really, really, really excluding half of their market. But it's not all bad. Now I'm going to tell you 5 good things about the Tier bike. With a lot of bikes in London, if you leave the little wire that locks it in place dangling by the side of the bike, it won't tell you that you've left it there. Tier have this little clever system that it detects whenever it's not in its place or where it's meant to be and will ring at you, like this. Another great thing about tier bikes is the seat adjustments. Now, they have a scale from, I think, 1 to 10, and depending on how tall or short you are, you can adjust your seat. Now, most bikes have this, but I don't think most bikes, especially the higher bikes in London, have the amount of range in between the numbers that tier has. Another good thing is that it shows you your range in bars on the sort of infotainment display, if you can call it that. And it's actually quite clever because it divides it by, I think, by 6. So by every bar is 10 kilometers. So if you know, ooh, I've only got 3 bars here, you know, I've only got 30 kilometers, which is, by the way, very, very good. 30 kilometers for half the range of a bike. Another thing I really like is up by this infotainment display where it shows you the battery level and it shows you how fast you're going, it has a phone charger, a wireless phone charger, something that I think all electric bikes in London should have. Now that brings me on to the verdict. Should you buy the tier bike? Should you shortlist the tier bike? Should you consider the tier bike? Or should you just forget about it? I think you should consider the tier bike. It's a good electric bike. It's fast, it's quick, it gets you where you need to be, but only in central London. I think that's what brings the score down. It's the quality control and the range that it has in London. Anyway, that wraps up this video, and I'll see you guys next time.